three biggest lies that the carnivore influencers are spreading, as per you?
You want me to limit myself to 3? Don't anyone tell me you can't build muscle as vegan, because those muscles are fully vegan. The justice or the injustice that is currently happening to animals. And when you fail a diet, that is to blame on you, and that diet is about you. But veganism shouldn't be made about you, but about the animals. So that really, really annoys me as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Shivam and welcome to Uncaged Podcast by VeganFTA. Haters will say that vegan men are weak. They call us soy boys. And then we have our guest today who is a vegan women fitness influencer. She's strong, she has big biceps, and she is slaying the nonsense BS propaganda that is spread against plant based fitness every day. Sarah, welcome to Uncaged by Vegan FTA. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. So, Sarah, first question, for how long have you been working out?
It's been almost 3 years. So I started in February of 2023. So it'll soon be 3 years.
That's
When we
it?
talk about weightlifting, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So when we talk about weightlifting, I've been an athletic person pretty much all my life. I used to play basketball. I used to run half marathons. But yeah, when it comes to weightlifting, it's only been 3 years.
Seriously, just 3 years?
It's seriously just been 3 years.
Okay, because looking at you doesn't look like 3 years. Now I'm feeling a bit ashamed. I've been working out for more than that, but okay, 3 years. But then, yeah, you said you
Thank you
have
so
been
much.
you have been into fitness, so I probably so that laid the foundation for strength training. But yeah, and now you're doing this full time. So like, walk us through this whole journey. Like, you decided to do strength training 3 years into it, and now, as per your Instagram profile, you help women gain muscles. So how did all of this happen?
Okay, I really need to kind of make it short, because otherwise it's going to be 3 podcast episodes, because it's a wild ride. So actually I have a completely different background. I did my PhD in management studies. So I'm actually from a completely different field. I also have a master's degree in rhetoric. So I basically studied stuff that I now have nothing to do with. But while I was doing my PhD, which I finished this year in April, I already realized that it's not what I want to do. So I didn't see myself in research, and I also didn't see myself in a corporate job. And while I was doing my PhD, I got into fitness. I finally also fully went vegan after years of being vegetarian. And I realized that that is what I was talking about so much all the time. So I would pretty much bug anyone in my private life about fitness and veganism and, all of that stuff. And so yeah, it kind of things fell together, I honestly have to say, because by some mere accident or chance, my Instagram started growing at some point last year. And I just thought that I might seize the chance and start or keep it growing by just putting out content. And now I'm a full-time fitness coach for women.
Okay, so there's a lot to wrap my head around, and I'll try to get into them. One, you said you completed your PhD, so you're Dr. Sarah now, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay, and in management studies.
exactly.
Okay. So, by the way, I'm also MBA in operations and
We're colleagues.
yeah.
We are
So
colleagues.
yeah. So, but yeah, I'm still working a little bit in the like for Vegan FTA. That is I'm into project management, so I've still not given up my management background, unlike you. And you also said you did your masters in what? I did not catch that.
um, in rhetoric, so I actually studied two things in parallel, both
Hmm?
management and rhetoric.
Rhetoric means like debating and stuff.
Um, yeah, exactly. So the art of talk and persuasion, basically,
Uh-huh. Very interesting. Very, very, very
and
interesting,
very
because that
niche.
very niche. Now this is going to sound really strange, because I'm currently pursuing MA philosophy, and debate and formal logic is a part of it. And so I was just, it's like there was some chapters, or within a chapter there was something to do with rhetoric. So yeah, very interesting. And yeah, I haven't had anyone on the podcast with this kind of a background. So very
with that kind
interesting.
of a wild ride.
Yeah. Yeah, I still can't wrap my head around this. And then you are a fitness influencer now, a fitness coach, and this has been 1 year of journey as a women fitness coach.
So yeah, I actually only started like officially, I only started out a few months ago. So I have been coaching friends and acquaintances of mine in parallel to my job priorly, but really doing it as a full-time job now. That's been a few months only. And I am
Oh,
every single day just so grateful that I dared the leap and just did it because it's the most fulfilling thing ever to do because I don't only have vegan clients, but I also have clients that are transitioning to veganism and also just accompanying them on the way not only to become stronger and get a stronger body and become a, let's call it, better version of themselves or a version that they aspire to be. I can also help them like make their lifestyle changes towards veganism, which is just the freaking best.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine that. And you said you were vegetarian for a very long time and became a vegan. And when did this happen on this very bizarre and different kind of a timeline?
So actually the transitioning to or the full transition to 100%, like, okay, so I know veganism is like this ethical stance, but when we also talk about the fully plant-based nutrition and the start with fitness was the exact same time. So both of that happened in like January, February of 2023. I turned vegan, or I went fully plant-based, also nutrition-wise, a little bit earlier, so maybe in November or December of 2022. As I said, I was vegetarian for over a decade before, and I kind of had this slower transition. So I first cut out dairy and stuff, and then the last thing kind of I dropped was like going to restaurants. So at home, I would eat fully plant-based, and then whenever I went to a restaurant, sometimes I would eat vegetarian. But then I finally was like, honestly, this is just me, yeah, trying to, or it was out of convenience, honestly, which is so stupid now thinking back about it. So I honestly wonder why it took me so long to make that final transition, because the ethical stance of veganism has been embedded in me for so long that I honestly don't know why it took me so long. But yeah, the timeline is pretty much both things occurred at the same time. So don't anyone tell me you can't build muscle as vegan, because those muscles are fully vegan.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is something very interesting, because generally a lot of times vegans are accused of this, that hey, they are vegan now but they built their muscles while they consumed animal products. But in your case, clearly that's not the case. So that is a story that a lot of these non-vegans who have uh, this mental blocker in their head should definitely know.
Mhm.
And you said you became a vegetarian almost 10 years back. Prior to that, 2012, I'm assuming somewhere near that. So why did that happen?
Exactly, yeah. So I always thought that it was hypocritical of me because, for example, I like the taste of meat a lot. So I used, unfortunately, to eat a lot of meat, a lot of dairy products. But I always found it hypocritical that, for example, if I had an entire fish in front of me where I could see the head and the fins, I was so disgusted that I couldn't eat it. Or if you would see an entire pork or sheep or whatever on the fire, on the barbecue, I couldn't eat it because I could recognize what it was. And back then I thought, okay, it is super hypocritical if I cannot acknowledge what I'm eating, or if I can't eat it without acknowledging what it is, then I shouldn't be supposed to eat it. Because if I can only eat meat when it's like this nicely chopped up, whatever piece of flesh in front of you, without seeing or realizing it's an animal, then that is not okay, and just not in line with my values as well. And also, yeah, I am a self-proclaimed animal lover, and I thought it really, really wrong to then also harm these animals. So that was kind of my reasoning back then why I went vegetarian. And unfortunately, it took me also quite a while to realize that vegetarianism isn't enough, because there's still this entire aspect of animal cruelty and animal exploitation that is happening in the dairy sector, because you always kind of think it's this fairy tale land where you only have happy cows and stuff, but that's not the case, obviously. And it took me quite a while, unfortunately, to also debunk that and then also, yeah, get over my cognitive dissonance, which was definitely there.
Yeah. Do you think in 2012, 13, or somewhere near that, had you come to know about veganism and the aspects of dairy, you would have gone vegan then?
I honestly don't think so. I honestly don't think so because that was also the time, like in 2014, I moved to Germany for my studies. I moved out of my home, obviously. So already I think the nutrition aspect would have been what would have held me back because back then I was very uninformed about, I don't know, cliche topic, protein sources as a vegan or even protein sources as a vegetarian. So I think out of convenience, to be honest, I wouldn't have done it. If the options would have been different back then, so if the options were as it is today, like for example, now I get to the supermarket and have 30 different brands of tofu, and back then I literally had one brand that I could choose from. So I think that would have made a big difference. Yeah.
Do you think let's say Sarah from 2012 comes across in some hypothetical situation, comes across Sarah from 2025 and your Instagram and your content from today, that would have inspired the Sarah in 2012 and 13?
100%. Yes, definitely. Because
Yeah.
that is also how I got more or closer to veganism and to fitness because I saw people that I looked up to. So, for example, I for a very long time didn't have vegans in my close circle in my life, and then all of
Mm.
a sudden I had more and more vegans in my life. Like my brother-in-law is vegan, his
Mm.
mom is vegan, my mom is also like she's mostly plant-based and just leaning very much toward that kind of nutrition. I have a good friend who's vegan, and all these people, of course, also inspired me. So definitely, also seeing someone like myself would have inspired me probably as well, because that's also how I got into fitness. To be honest, I saw a lot of vegan fitness influencers out there, like Nima Delgado, Luca Fent, Brooke Ellis, John Thomas, all of these people. So that everyone in our bubble obviously knows. And that
Mm.
inspired me a lot because, yeah, I saw that, they live their life as vegans, so in line with the ethics. They have this extremely fit body and just can pursue their goals, which we are so often told is impossible to reach as a vegan.
Mm.
And that just really inspired me as well. So I think that Sarah from 2012 would have been inspired by
Mhm.
Sarah from 2025.
Yeah. This is the reason why I'm asking you this is because this is something I've observed. And when I talk to people who have become vegan recently, is I feel that the growth of awareness and inspiration on social media has helped a lot of people like you, right? And unfortunately this was not available in the past. So one
Mhm.
was, even if people were ethically aligned, but was to live in a world which is essentially non-vegan in every aspect. Everywhere you look around, it's completely non-vegan, right? So it, whenever there's a strong community, whether online offline, that really helps and helps the person to get over on the other side and align with their ethical values, right? Ethically, probably because from what I hear, you were an ethical vegetarian. You chose that, but probably to become a full vegan, you had to know about the exploitation as a whole and also find people around you, and which happened in the recent years.
Exactly, and it's also just getting inspiration and help from other people. For
Mm.
example, as I do with some of my clients whom I help to transition to a fully vegan lifestyle, sometimes they just lack the knowledge, and then it's really a lot of work also to look all of that up. Because I always say that, for example, when you learn to cook fully plant-based, for example, that's fixed cost you once have. You need to kind of learn of different spices and how can you, I don't know, swap dairy products for non-dairy products. How can you swap eggs, for example? And looking all
Mm.
of that up is a lot of work and a lot of mental load also for a lot of people. And just having
Mm.
someone there that guides you and that already has all of these answers and can inspire you also in that regard and give you ideas on how you can prepare stuff, for example, just makes your life so much easier. And I think that
Mm.
comes, or that's in so many regards when it comes to veganism. So, for example, just having someone that has your back when you wonder how you go about discussions about veganism or how you can deal with people that, I don't know, mock your lifestyle or whatever. And just knowing that
Mm.
there are people that you can always ask for help is really
Mm.
so much yeah, makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, because sense of community is a really strong thing. And while it should not be needed, ideally people should know the reality and irrespective become vegan and stand against exploitation. But yeah, like I said earlier, living in a world where you're surrounded, your loved ones, everyone you know, your colleagues, or everyone is a non-vegan and every product around you is non-vegan. So yeah, in that sense community is really helpful. And I think last 3 4 years 5 years, let's say, social media has played a huge role with content creators across the globe, different countries, different cities, micro influencers, and the information that is available to people. Yeah, so that has been there. Um, in in your journey as a fitness coach, so I'm assuming that you also learned a lot about fitness. So did you pursue formal training for that as well?
Yeah, so I have a trainer's license and a nutritionist license. And I'm actually also striving to get some more. So, like for example, I'm not a certified sport nutritionist at this point, and that's something I want to pursue. Even though honestly, it is not necessary in the sense that people don't really ask for it, clients, and there's so much you can do just by autodidactical knowledge. And with my academic background, fortunately, I'm also very good in kind of distinguishing legit information from non-legit information. So yeah, formally, I kind of want to do it for myself because I want to have these credentials. But to be honest, I don't think my clients would mind if I do it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, not from client's perspective, but yeah, in general to gain knowledge. But in your case, because you have formal training in understanding technical literature, so that definitely helps you probably in understanding whatever is going on in the nutrition world. And there's so much that goes on which we'll deep dive into. um, First and foremost, I've seen you make reaction videos to carnivore influencers. So very simple question: three biggest lies that the carnivore influencers are spreading as per you.
You want me to limit myself to three? Okay,
Let's say
from
the
a
biggest
fitness
three,
perspective,
top three. Yeah.
from a fitness perspective, the first thing obviously that comes to mind is that you need meat for protein, which is complete nonsense because your body doesn't care where it gets its amino acids from. So whether these amino acids, so that these are the building blocks basically of protein, your body doesn't care whether you get that from soy or from meat. It just uses the amino acids. So that is
Mm,
definitely number one. You
mm,
don't need meat for protein. The second one, probably the seed oil debate because it's also currently a hot topic. So
mm,
carnivore influence saying that I don't know butter is healthier than seed oils, which is also scientifically or from a research perspective not the case. So there was recently a study that actually also showed that seed oils actually have major advantages compared to butter, for example, or to just dairy products. So
mm,
that is definitely also a big one. And the third one, probably that meat is healthy,
mm,
which is not necessarily the case because, for example, red meat is classified as a type 2A carcinogen, so meaning that there's strong correlational evidence that it actually might be linked
mm,
to cancer. And strongly processed meats, for example, are classified as a type 1 carcinogen, meaning that they are causally even linked to
mm,
cancer. So that is definitely also a big one, meat being healthy. That is
mm,
not the case, and especially not if you only live off of meat, because I
mm.
honestly don't want to know their LDL levels. Their cholesterol levels must be through the roof, and that is something that you don't feel immediately. You only feel it once it's too late. So yeah, I'd
Mm.
say that's the big three.
But isn't like food cholesterol and I don't know, they say like food cholesterol doesn't impact the blood cholesterol, something like that? I mean, that is
Um,
the narrative that they go with.
I honestly don't know how they argue it. I think they argue it mostly by that cholesterol is nothing bad. And the thing is that there's two types of cholesterol. So you have LDL and you have HDL, and LDL being kind of the bad one. But another issue is that since carnivores, if they really stick to that carnivore diet, they, for example, also don't consume fiber. at all. And fiber plays a huge role when it comes to kind of eliminating the bad cholesterol, so the LDL out of your blood, so that it basically doesn't clog up your blood vessels. So they kind of get into wild, very wild stories that they frame around the entire LDL thing to kind of justify it in front of themselves and to justify it to people that obviously, unfortunately, just believe them because I don't know, like Paul Saladino, who is a medical doctor, he seems credible and he has these credentials of being a medical doctor, but unfortunately, people take that as a signal that he is knowledgeable, which in that case,
Yeah, and it's an appeal to authority. I mean, yeah, because he has degrees and credential doesn't mean that the information that he's spreading is correct. Plus, another thing with meat is healthy, and in general, I think any health-based claim which is very general in nature is dangerous. Is what I feel. I feel even some vegans making such blanket statements that plant-based diet is healthy because it depends on what you're eating under a plant-based diet as well, right? If you're eating Oreos and ice cream and all of your bulk of your calories coming from junk, then it's not healthy. So in and this is probably some fake influencers. When I say fake, I mean they are not like those people are real, but the narrative that they spew is dubious in nature, where they try to make claims which are very generic in nature and sometimes out of context as well. You talked about the protein part, right? So you mentioned like the argument that carnivore influencers, and even for that matter a bulk of the fitness influencers who are not necessarily carnivore diet influencers, even they make this claim, or they try to push this narrative that protein meat is, or animal flesh is important for protein. And one of the arguments given is that one, they have better amino acid profile distribution. Secondly, the absorption of plant-based protein is less. So how do we combat that, and is that correct?
so the first thing with the amino acid profile is just it's not complete nonsense in the sense that yes, meat might have a better distribution of the amino acid profile. However,
Mm,
all
mm,
plants have all amino acids. So that is often a
yeah,
claim that plants are incomplete protein, which is not the case.
yeah,
All plants contain all amino
yeah,
acids, but in different degrees or in varying
mm,
amounts. So
mm,
yeah, there might be, let's call it an issue because it's not even really an issue. If you would only consume one food the entire day, then you
mm,
might not have the amino or the optimal amino acid profile consumed. However, if you eat a variety of food and combine foods, then worrying about the amino acid profile honestly is just completely unnecessary. As long as you get overall enough protein, you don't need to worry about your amino acid profile because your body is smart. Your body will be able to recombine, the amino acids
mm.
that it took from, I don't know, beans versus it took from lentils or soy or whatever. And that is just a huge, huge myth, which unfortunately still upholds.
Mm, yeah, I think this myth has to die, that uh, plant-based sources are incomplete amino acid. That word, I hate that word and I hate that statement. And so many times on my YouTube videos when I'm debunking here in India, I show that graph. I'm sure you have seen that graph as well, where uh, all amino acids, they are marked in different colors. I think we'll ask our editor to put that while we discuss this. So yeah, that is there. And also you talked about something very interesting, that okay, we consume from different sources and then the body is smart to mix and match and derive the full profile. Is there a window, like for example, should body consume from different sources within a 8-hour window or 24-hour window or 1 week window? Is there something like that? Like for example, or just to
So, I
just to
mean,
make it simpler, let's say, and I know it's a very weird case, but just out of curiosity, I'm making this up, and I'm sure that someday some carnivore bad faith debater will also make such situation, but I'm just doing this for the sake of our discussion. So let's say I'm just consuming lentil today, and tomorrow I'm just consuming rice. I mean, that's again very weird, but let's just go with that. Today I'm just consuming lentil, tomorrow I'm just consuming rice, and day after tomorrow I'm just consuming tofu. So these are like three different sources. Now I'm consuming them on 3 different days. So will my body mix and match from them, or is it like too far spread and I have to bring them closer?
To be very honest, I don't know if there's a definitive window, but the thing is
Mm,
that your body doesn't, like, your body can store amino acids, your body can store a lot
okay.
of nutrients. And that being
Yeah.
said, it's not that if you eat lentils today, that all of the benefits or everything that you ingested from the lentils will just be, I don't
Mm,
know, pushed out of your body tomorrow if you don't use it right now. So I don't know
mm,
what the window of it is exactly like when it comes to storing amino acids, but yes, your body
mm,
is definitely able to hold on to those amino acids longer than a few hours. And the same
yeah.
goes for vitamins and minerals, for example. So you will
Mm,
not be deficient from today to tomorrow if you don't consume enough B12 or vitamin C or whatever today. So your body is very
yeah.
smart in holding
Yeah.
on to all of the nutrients, micro and macronutrients
Mm,
overall. So I don't know if there's like a window about, I don't
yeah.
know, a week or something like that. I imagine there probably is, but
Yeah. Something we'll
you
will
won't
will
go an entire week without like consuming a variety of foods, probably. I hope
of
so.
Of course not. Like I'm very smart with my food consumption. I'm very aware of my food consumption. But I was just thought about this question came to my mind. I was just thinking about this. I was writing a script for one of my videos, and while writing that, this came to me. But this probably something we need to look into, right? Otherwise, someday someone will actually make a video like this. Oh, they get this from, like, they don't get their amino acid, and it's like wasted and all of that, right?
I'm sure
And
there already are videos out there.
yeah, could be. Yeah, could be. I either Paul Salidano or that, I don't know, I forgot her name. The lady with yellow glasses. She comes on my feed every now and
Oh,
then.
I know who you mean. Oh my God, the one that keeps kind of comparing quinoa to meat. I'm like,
Yeah,
why?
yeah,
Quinoa is
yeah.
not a protein source.
Yeah, that is one very weird thing. Okay, we'll get into this discussion now only. So this one allegation that we get is also on the so we discussed about the quality of protein. Now let's discuss about the quantity of protein. So whenever they make comparison, they'll always compare something which is highly dense in protein in on the non-vegan side, and when it comes to the plant-based side, they'll select food group which is not as high in protein. They'll select, I don't know, sometimes they'll select lentils, but they'll not talk about tofu. Like that's the trend mostly which I have seen, right? So it's like not a proper comparison. So I lost my train of thought. What my question? Yeah, my question is, yeah. So essentially, what do you consider as a food which is high in protein? Like calorie wise, as per you, how much protein should be there in a meal or in a food for you to say that this is high protein?
I consider a high protein source everything that gets at least 40% of its calories from protein. So 1 gram
Oh
of
wow.
protein has 4.1 calories. And for example, if you now take tofu that has like the tofu I use has 15 gram of protein per 100 gram. So then you would multiply 15 gram times 4 or 4.1, meaning
Uh,
60 calories come from protein. And then you divide it by the overall calories that 100 gram of tofu has, and then you can assess whether it is above 40%. So that is really high protein sources.
mm,
And there's an abundance of it. And tofu is actually the worst example for that because the tofu that I use, for example, is at the limiting threshold. So it has 40 gram of, or it has these 40% of its energy coming from protein. But there are even way better sources in the vegan world, as you also obviously know. So you have seitan, you have TVP, you have nutritional yeast, you have also TVP from soy and for peas. So there's so many options that are better, that are higher in protein um, than lentils, for example, or beans. And yeah, so
mm,
high protein for me, anything with 40% of its energy coming from protein.
mm. And very interesting that you are saying that tofu is not one of the best examples of this, because generally tofu is a great example in the sense that it is because it's so easily available, and yeah, and it's high in protein. But you gave other options. You said seitan, and then you said nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast, do you mean nutritional yeast protein powder?
No, so there's nutritional yeast protein powder. I need to
Yeah.
look that up. Nutritional yeast, just
Yes.
like I didn't know there's protein powder of that because I only know it
The
like as.
Yeah.
Nutritional yeast is
So
for me, it's like a common regular ingredient, the one that gives you a cheesy flavor. And that
okay.
has like the one that I have, for example, has 49 gram of protein per 100 gram of product, which
Oh
is
wow.
insane.
And what's
But
the
it's not a
calorie count?
protein
Like
powder.
calorie
Uh,
count
it has
wise
it
percentage?
has 300, roughly 330 calories per 100 gram,
Okay, so
and
120
49
by 300.
gram
Yeah.
of protein. Yeah,
Hmm. Okay,
so
good.
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And what was the other thing you said? TVP, what is that?
TVP, so textured vegetable protein, and you mostly
Oh,
get that from soy or pea. And
okay.
PTVP, for example, if you have 100 gram of dry product, it has about 70 gram of protein. And soy TVP has for 100 gram of the dry product about 50 gram of protein. So
How is
again,
this
it's
any?
it's crazy, crazy high.
Yeah, I mean, 70%, of course, really high. But how is this different from plant protein supplement? Like that is also extracted from peas, brown rice, etc. Right? So this is this something similar?
So you mean protein powders or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that how's a TVP different? Because from what I hear is that in that you are extracting protein from soya or something else, and plant protein powder is also extracting protein from either soya, brown rice, peas, etc. So is it similar to a
So
protein powder?
no, 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 no. So TVP is basic. It's not extracted, but it's just a form of processed, yeah, processed
Oh,
soy or processed pea. So actually, it's not a powder or just extracted like you would have it with the protein powders, but it's really just a form of processed, yeah, pea or
okay.
soy that you can use.
Okay, yeah. I just typed TVP on Google, and apparently all the articles are related to TVP, the one you are referring to, which means I need to upgrade myself with this and search for something similar in India. I thought, like,
Or
okay,
maybe you know it as soy curls, because a lot of times when I talk about TVP, people don't get what I mean, and I just talk about soy curls, and then I understand it because soy curls is a more common term, maybe.
oi, oi, is this soya chunk? Wait a second. In
Exactly,
in
yeah, exactly.
It's soya chunk. Okay, yeah, yeah. Soya chunk,
It
I know. Soya chunk is a very common
okay,
thing in
yeah,
India.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah,
It
yeah.
really depends on the region as well in India. So I have actually two people that I know from India. One of them is from Delhi, and the other one is from Lucknow. And one of them actually has access to TVP, and the other person doesn't. So I think it really also depends on the region where you look at it.
Okay. No, but soya chunk is something I'll just look into it. My so I my I'll this is something this is a homework for me. I'll look into it. And in case in the audience, if you think that I'm acting very naive, please pardon me. With my knowledge, I just rely on tofu and some of the stuff that I eat, but there's something I look into. Yeah. Soya chunk is
Tofu
something
is
it
the
is.
best, anyways. Like I
Yeah.
love tofu because it's so versatile. And don't get me wrong, it is still a high protein source, even if it's at quote unquote the lower bound of these 40%. But tofu is just the best because it's so versatile. You can literally do anything with it.
Yeah. I'll just present my screen for a moment. This is soya chunk. Let me just show you. This is soya chunk made from soya.
Exactly,
Does
yeah.
this
So
look
that's the
familiar?
dry version. Yeah, exactly. So it either comes in curls, or you can even have it as granules that you use, for example,
Yeah,
that you
it's
make
same.
lasagna, for example, and it's
Yeah, yeah,
just awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah, you can
Okay,
either usually you rehydrate it and just put it in food, but I'm sometimes lazy and I just sprinkle it as a dry form on my yogurt bowls, for example, because it just gives a crunch. It is rather neutral in taste, and it's just such a protein boost.
okay. Now, so it is officially confirmed as we are trusting Google AI for this. TVP chunks and soya chunks are the same product. So okay, so I'm not that behind.
Whew,
Yeah,
thank God we weren't
I
debunked by
yeah.
Google AI here.
Yeah. Yeah, because generally I position myself as someone who is nutritionally aware, so it would have been a shame, but yeah, okay, cool. So
But it's
back,
just a term, yeah. So
yeah, just a term. Okay, so yeah, so essentially you said 40% mark is a good baseline for consumption of protein, but this 40% mark, essentially I also believe that you are factoring in strength training as well, right? So in general, for example,
exactly.
what is as per you, what is the recommendation per kg body weight protein consumption that people should have?
So it depends on what or on who you are. So for example, if you are just, let's say, a regular person with moderate activity, you
Mm,
should consume about 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. However, that is
mm,
still not optimal because that is where you basically survive. So 0.9 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is where you survive. If you start consuming a little bit more, like 1.1 to 1.2 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, you start functioning a little bit better because protein is also super important for your for your immune health, for example. And if
mm,
you're really chasing the gains, if you're really into strength training, weightlifting, want to build muscle, it is usually recommended to consume 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So obviously, when I talk about these high protein foods, these are things that are mostly targeting or that should be also consumed in higher amounts by people that do weightlifting that have these 1.5 to 2 grams of kilogram of body weight
mm,
targets, which is obviously harder to achieve if you were trying to do it only with
mm,
lentils and beans, because then you will just
mm,
have a food baby all day, every day.
yeah. And even then, probably your macro consumption would go so high because your carbs will be that high. Because 1.5, 2 grams protein, and you are trying to stay near your maintenance calorie as per your workout limit, will come down to around 35% of protein by calorie, I guess, somewhere near that, right? 35,
Yeah.
40%, somewhere near that, depending on body weight, etc. The baseline you mentioned is 1 gram per kg. I think the recommendation by some of the nutrition bodies is zero point 0.8 per per gram per kg body weight. And then there are some people who say like that is also a farce because earlier it used to be zero point 0.5 per kg body weight. And the direction that I'm going in, that specifically within the plant based community, I have seen people who actually say that we don't need that much protein. Zero point 0.8, like I have actually, like this is anecdotal, but I know someone who actually says that you should not go beyond zero point 0.8 per kg body weight. So that notion, I'm sure that in the being in the fitness community, you would have come across people like that. Um, s- there is a subset within the plant-based community, and they are called fruitarians. And first and foremost, what's your opinion on fruitarians?
I don't personally know any, but generally I'm not a fan of people that try to do or to perceive veganism, for example, in a rather extreme way that is still very exclusive or that excludes a lot of foods. So, for example, fruitarians or raw vegans, because
Yeah.
the issue I see here is that these people unfortunately often don't consume foods that are energy dense enough. Because if you live only off of fruits and vegetables, you will not
Mm,
have enough foods or enough energy dense foods, and
mm,
that will lead to deficiencies, because in that case you might have like not the protein deficiency, but you might not get enough protein to actually function optimally. You will have deficiencies when it comes to overall calories because you won't be able to consume enough carbs or fats, for example. Especially fats are very, very low in fruits and vegetables. So
mm,
generally, not too much of a fan of it, because I think that unfortunately these people at some point might fail with the diet that they pursue and then blame it on veganism. And
mm,
that is, in my opinion, a huge problem, because veganism wasn't the issue, but their diet was the issue. Because veganism can be a very healthy and very balanced diet if you do it correctly, as any diet. It
yeah.
has to be planned smartly and then you're good. But if you pursue these very extremes, it might get hard. So yeah, I do have a little bit of an issue with these people, because I'm always afraid that they, yeah, will fail at some point and then blame it on veganism and go full
Yeah.
on carnivore.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why specifically I said that under the plant based bucket, I did not use the term veganism because generally I try not to associate diet with veganism. I know people can do crazy stuff, but if they are doing it for the right reasons, if they are doing it for the right, if you are doing it for the animals, then they will adapt and learn and go on a healthier route. But yeah, if someone is just doing it for the diet, and then like how some of these celebrities are, right? And that's where what you're saying is so apt, that they will then blame it on the diet, and then they'll go around and saying on some podcasts that it did not work out for me, and so on and so forth, right?
That's really something that annoys me so much, because, as you said, veganism isn't about you. Veganism isn't about you as a person. Veganism is about the animals. It's about the justice or the injustice that is currently happening to animals. And because and when you fail a diet, that is to blame on you, and that diet is about you. But veganism
Yeah.
shouldn't be made about you, but about the animals. So that really,
Yeah.
really annoys me as well. So yeah,
Yeah. 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 And that's why within this diet there's this whole fruitarian movement, and then there are people I've I've met people who, and the ones that I have met actually, they also did not look healthy. If I can be loose around judging health basis looks, but still, like, you find them skinny, and they are, it's almost evident that they are not consuming enough protein if everything else in their body is functioning fine, and they still vouch for low consumption of protein, and the thought process is that you don't need that much protein. And already,
yeah,
like, my I don't have a problem with them personally, but as an animal rights educator, already I'm combating this nonsensical narrative that you can get enough protein on a plant-based diet. And then if people from this community also speaks up that no, we don't need protein, then that stereotypical image of vegans not getting protein is perpetuated further, and that adds that much extra layer of clarification. So yeah, that is there. And
exactly.
there's one account which I found recently. I just want to share that with you and just take your opinion. I think this person is a fruitarian, so is all, of course, on a plant based diet. Probably I should get him as well on this discussion
Okay.
someday. Now,
Hmm.
if you see, he is big and jagged, right?
Yeah,
And the account name says fruitarian, so I'm assuming he consumes fruits only. But
yeah.
if I were to guess based on my limited knowledge, i I can, like, it's very hard for me to fathom actually that this is the kind of physique that is built on eating fruits.
I find it highly doubtable, to be honest, as well, because you will
Yeah.
be very low in protein, you will be very low in fats, all of which are
Yeah.
also very important for building muscle. And I generally kind of try to stay away from accusations, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to
No,
people
that's
being on gear and stuff. But
yeah.
for example, like here, he has typical signs also of being on gear. Like you have these very pronounced traps and delts compared to like the bicep, for example. That is often a sign of being on gear. Still, even though if you are on gear, you still need obviously the right amount of protein and the right amount of food to
Yeah.
get that
He
physique. So he has a fantastic physique, don't get me wrong,
yeah.
but it seems a little bit shaded to me to do that on a fructarian diet.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, he has mentioned that point, like he's being accused of taking
I
steroids,
just
which,
saw that you highlighted it. Yeah, I only
yeah.
realized it now.
Yeah. So, and of course, we don't know him, so I mean, this is just a speculation. We need to discuss with him to learn more about this. But yeah, in general also, like, if a person who is on a plant based diet is good looking, has good amount of muscles, when I should not use the term good looking, but if they have good amount of muscles, then they are accused of taking steroids. So that is there anyway. But then, of course, like you said, and something which I totally agree with, that keeping everything else same, keeping your protein sanity in check, getting the right amount of protein, e- hitting your macros and doing your workout, focusing on recovery, etc., doing all of that, um, you can build a decent physique, as anyone with similar levels of genetics on an animal based diet as well. But yeah, these are like outlier examples which I always think about, maybe. So yeah, someday I think we should get him on the discussion. You should be there, and then it will be fun to.
Oh, it's gonna be beef, but in a vegan way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
No,
I
but I
think
mean,
just to make it interesting, we should also get someone who's a carnivore influencer. So, like,
oh my god,
yeah.
it's good that it's fully remote because otherwise the fists would be flying. But I also
but
don't
but
want to
but
say
but
that
but
it
then
is not.
but just to make a point there, you said it should be remote, otherwise fist would be flying. But then that is also a good thing, right? That's like a test of strength, and then people can say, like, since I am on XYZ diet, see, I could beat this other person.
You really want to see blood.
No. As vegans,
No,
we
but
are
the thing is
against
that
any form of violence.
true that. No, but I think it's always really hard to tell from just one example. So it might be that this dude legit is a fruitarian and he legit built that physique without any,
Mm,
you know, I don't know, tofu
mm,
or whatever it is. Um, but then we also need to keep in mind that anecdotal evidence is not
mm,
actual evidence. And just
mm,
because something works for one person doesn't mean that it's going to work for the vast majority. And that is something, again, also when we look at the other extremes, like the carnivores, for example, that they love to use. They love their anecdotal evidence, and
mm,
that is just not something reliable. So when it comes to
mm.
the soundness of science, of evidence, then anecdotal evidence is like at the very bottom of everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, it might be possible for this one outlier person that it is
Mm.
actually helping their
Yeah.
health or helping their muscle growth or whatever, but it shouldn't be a
Yeah.
general recommendation. So I don't know. There are also
Yeah.
people that smoke their entire life and don't get lung cancer, which doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we should all start smoking.
Yes. And it's so funny and also a bit sad that anecdotal evidence sells the most on social media. Like, it doesn't matter what, because m- not everyone is going to read up on literature or listen to scientific discussions and so on and so forth. But anecdotal evidence, like, anyone, again, whatever weird diet that they are on, but if they look a certain way, then they can influence because of that look, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of also the problem that, and I can't even blame people because honestly, reading scientific literature is really, really hard, and you do need a certain background in order to understand it because it's so draining to go through it to understand all the methods and stuff. But still, it is really sad that people lack some kind of critical thinking education. So even smart, educated people often lack that critical thinking of really differentiating what we just said, anecdotal evidence from something that is legit, and also
Mm,
differentiating a good scientific source versus something that is not a scientific source. So sometimes they will even, so
mm,
some influencers will link some quote unquote studies under their post, and when you look it up, it's not a study, but it's, I don't know, an article that was posted in the New York Times, for example. And I'm like, that is not
mm.
science, that is not research.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, critical thinking training is something which, in general, education system across the globe is missing, and with the rapid generation and dump of information on the internet, that is all the more needed to sift through all the garbage and the BS out there, right?
Yeah.
Just wanted to check with you, if it makes sense as a coach. Do you think there is some difference when it comes to female fitness than that of men, like at a very broad level?
Hmm. A lot of people will probably now say hormones and the cycle, the menstrual cycle. But again, there's limited evidence when it comes to actually, or so a lot of people will talk, for example, about the luteal phase and the follicular phase, that they impact the way that you should train, for example, as women. But again, there's no scientific research or evidence for that. So that is also a huge myth that is currently out there. The basics are the very same for men and for women. So you need to
Mm,
eat your protein, need to eat your carbs, your fats, your micros, and you need to train very, very hard. So the baselines really are the same. I
mm,
do acknowledge that there are differences for women, especially when it comes to their menstrual cycle, but not like on a global level, but on an individual level. And that is why it is also so important if you work with a coach to have someone that really also looks at you as an individual. Because for some women, so I have clients, for example, that have terrible PMS, and they will just, yeah, be unable to do anything for a week because they're in so much pain. And I have other clients, and I
mm,
have myself, for example, who don't experience any difference. So for me, there's no difference in my
mm,
training, in my mood, in whatever throughout the entire cycle. And that is kind of what you might need to take into account when you train women specifically. But it is,
mm,
again, nothing on a global scale or on a general scale, because there's no scientific evidence actually suggesting that women should train differently in different parts of their cycle, for example.
mm. And because this is such a critical aspect, specifically the menstrual cycle, and like you said, the experiences are so vastly different between women. Do, and you said there is no evidence as of now which suggests that it impacts women or we can say conclusively that okay, because of X Y is happening, there's no evidence like that. But do you think that it could also be the case that there is not enough study in this space?
Definitely. So there is definitely lack in studies, especially since women haven't been, let's say, lifting for so long in society. So it's only been in recent years that more and more women got into weightlifting because now also the health benefits are way more out there. So we now know that weightlifting is great to prevent osteoporosis, for example, which is again a problem that more women are affected by, for example. So a lot of women will get into weightlifting, into strength training for their own health, which is great. I absolutely 100% love it. And also this aesthetic or the aesthetic preferences are shifting a little bit in my impression. So that is why
Mm,
also again a lot of women get into weightlifting. And that wasn't the case until recently. So until now, a lot of studies obviously were conducted on men. So there is a huge need for research
mm,
on women in so many
mm,
aspects. And when it comes to health, when it comes to weightlifting, when it comes to, I don't know, even safety in cars, for example, because it's always men that are kind of the models that are used for studies. So definitely there needs to be more research on that.
yeah. Yeah, because this is something I was talking to some of my friends, and we were just in general discussing about how patriarchy has shaped our society. And there are some areas which are so neglected when it comes to women and their role in our society. One of them, I believe, is scientific studies where the population is mostly men. I don't know if there is a study to study this, that what percentage of study is done on men versus women. But yeah, something I was hearing recently, and probably that's one of the reasons, um, that is one of the things that we should look into, that okay, more women, there are more studies pertaining to women health and hygiene in general.
Yeah, 100%. So when I say that currently there's no evidence, for example, that the cycle affects the way that you should train, for example, because you can't build muscle, I don't know, in your luteal phase compared to your follicular phase. That is based
Mm,
on the evidence that we have now. And that evidence,
mm,
unfortunately, is scarce. But until there is more evidence, which
yeah.
hopefully there will be soon,
Mm,
I kind of wanted to stay away from making any claims that are not
mm.
at least somewhat sound.
Yeah. And I love the fact that when people hold back from making claims, that is a sign of a good critical thinker. That okay,
Thank you.
I can at best be agnostic on the subject. And yeah. Yeah, so so even when I'm saying this, I'm saying this with, of course, I haven't read any evidence on this. I'm learning from you. But in general, if yeah, there should be more studies around this. And I think in general, when it comes to strength training, the overall increase in studies, or the studies that are done, is increasing in the recent years only. Like a lot of studies are coming out which are in the recent years, and that is also to do with the fact that society in general has become very aware about strength training, right? So that's also there, like biomechanics, nutrition, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so it's actually cool that you also perceive it that way because I sometimes wonder if I'm too much in my bubble, and that is why I perceive all of that information because it's the bubble that I live in. But I definitely also agree with you when you look at research, for example, as I just mentioned with osteoporosis, for example. If you look up research articles that look at the relation between resistance training and osteoporosis, and if
Mm,
you just make a Google Scholar search or you just look it up on any other yeah site where you can find research or scientific evidence, you will see that actually, really, in recent years, the amount of studies that were published are way higher than two
mm,
decades or back 2 decades. So there is definitely, in my perception, a shift in that regard.
mm. Yeah. Assume you are talking to an adult with an understanding capacity of a 10-year-old. What will you tell them that why they should work out?
Oof, there's so many reasons. For longevity, to be honest, because longevity
Mm,
is not about living long, but it's living long at your best capacity and
mm,
ability. And
mm,
working out and strength training specifically has so many benefits. So, for example, as I mentioned, it helps preventing osteoporosis and increases bone mineral density.
mm,
It improves also your cardiovascular health. It prevents muscle. how do you call that, your muscle deteriorating, because at the age of 35 we start losing, I think it was 1% of muscle, or no, sorry, it was about 5% of muscle mass per decade that we age. And if we don't
mm,
actively counteract by involving
mm,
resistance training in our workout or in our daily routine, then our muscle mass will just decrease, and that will also lead to a loss of functionality, especially as you age.
mm,
And so there are just so many reasons when it comes to longevity why you
mm,
should engage in weightlifting.
mm. And also, I think the term for that is sacropenia, is something like that.
Exactly, thanks. That was the term I was looking for.
Yeah,
Sarcopenia, yeah.
yeah, sarcopenia. Yeah, and yeah, I've like lack of muscle, like for people who do not work out, and I have actually seen that in my family with my parents and my father. He's recently lost his grip strength almost completely. He can't hold it. He has never worked out or anything like that. And all the like old age people that I see, because that generation was not so aware about health and nutrition. And when you see this, you mentioned something very important. You mentioned longevity, but you also put in the quality of the life, right? And because of advancement in science and pharmaceuticals and in general, this space, the longevity of the earlier generation, that has increased in terms of numbers, but the quality of life, specifically in the last 10% of their life, that is something which is a huge struggle. So from that perspective, it's like, I don't know who said this. I read it somewhere, like, getting old is like a war which is waged against you, and the only way you can combat that is through strength training, something like that.
I have never heard that quote, but I love it because yeah, 100%. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care becoming 100 years old if the last 10 or 20 years of my life I would basically be a vegetable and just be bound to my
Mm,
bed and wouldn't be able to walk up the stairs, or I don't know, meet up with my friends. So I
mm,
definitely think that the quality of life as you age
mm,
also matters a lot.
mm. Have you read the book called Outlive by Peter Attia, Attila, something
Is
like that?
is that I honestly have no idea. Peter Attia, is that millionaire or billionaire that is kind of trying to reverse
No, no,
aging, and that is not
no,
that
no,
one
no. That is Brian Johnson.
because oh yeah, true. Sorry, yeah, Brian Johnson. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So no to both of your or to both actually. I don't know who that dude is, and I
Okay.
also haven't read the book. What is it about? Should I read it? Apparently, I should.
Yeah. No, that is a so I'm reading his book currently, Outlive, which is essentially to do with this whole concept of longevity and how you define it and what are some of the parameters. One of them being strength training. So I'm pretty sure you will enjoy that book. Of course, I'm not sure. I don't think he's
I
a
just took a
plant
note.
based. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that dude is the other one that you're talking about, Brian Johnson. He is, by the way, he's on a plant based diet.
Yeah, I recently saw documentaries about him. I think it wasn't even on Netflix, or I just somewhere
Yeah.
I saw a documentary on him, and yeah, he's on plant-based diet, which
Uh, and
I don't know
and the
if he does us a
funny
favor with it, honestly, because
and
he's overdoing it a lot, and I think a lot of people might associate veganism with that again. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be
I
associated with, I don't know, extremes.
but but he generally doesn't talk about veganism or being a vegan that much. So probably he's not doing that much harm. So he came to India, and India, of course, the pollution levels are really high, but he made a real drama around it. He was going to all these podcasts for the promotion of his movie with air purifier, and in one of the podcasts he actually walked out saying that I'm not feeling good because the air, it's like scratching my throat or something like that. And that became a national news kind of a thing. And I was just worried that please, 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 no one should come to know that he's a vegan. Otherwise, people will like this. See, vegans are like this. They can't even breathe. But luckily, that whole thing happened, and it didn't come to limelight that that he is a vegan. And I'm saying he's a vegan because I think somewhere he has mentioned that he care about the ethics of animals. Earlier, I thought he's
Okay.
just on a plant-based diet. So, but yeah, I mean, interesting thing and interesting stuff that he does. And the funny part is his name is Brian Johnson. there's another person whose name is Brian Johnson, and he was a hardcore raw carnivore, raw animal eater, whatever. Um, if you heard of Liver King.
Yeah, I have. Oh, really? That's his real name, Liver King, for real? Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
So they are
Um, that
so
dude,
this, yeah. So
he
it
went
is
so
so,
down the line. Oh my God.
yeah. So the funny thing is that there are two Brian Johnsons who are doing like super crazy extreme stuff on completely different end of the spectrum. So yeah.
I know who I like better still.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we'll prefer the plant-based Brian Johnson more, but yeah.
Whereas I have
That
to say, the Liver King, he's actually doing us a favor right now because he just went, I don't know, he just is so wasted at this point, and I think he is really not doing the carnivore movement a favor. So right now, seeing him deteriorate is actually helping the vegan movement a little bit more, or it's at least harming the carnivore movement. So I gotta give him
yeah.
credit for that at least.
Yeah. I think he got caught also because his whole he used to claim that he's natural or something like that, and then his entire steroid cycle thing was leaked somewhere. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Shocker. I mean, anyone with a little bit of a clue in that fitness scenes could tell right away that that dude was so clearly on gear. So
Yeah.
it shouldn't be yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. But again, a lot of people are just not aware of how many people actually also are on gear. So I don't want to
Yeah.
make anyone feel bad for not knowing that.
Yeah.
But it's actually good that he's coming down now. It's his downfall, and I love watching it.
And if you don't mind asking me, are you 100% natural?
I am 100% natural, and I would always be, because honestly, I don't see the worth in messing up your health and risking your health over a
Mm,
little bit more muscle. Because
mm,
yeah, I think people that are not natural, I
mm,
think there are a few aspects to that. So either they are competing in bodybuilding, for example, and they just don't have any other chance to kind of get up to that IFBB pro level, for example,
mm,
or it is unfortunately people that are have huge body dysmorphia. And I would not count myself to these people anymore. So I think a lot of people, unfortunately, in fitness scene suffer from body dysmorphia and then start hopping on gear, hoping that it will solve their problem. But the problem is, if you have body dysmorphia, you will never be big enough. You can be big, Chris Bumstead, and still not be big enough. So yeah, no.
yeah.
I will promise you today, I will always stay natty.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would have asked you this question that do you intend to compete? But of course, you are not interested in that route. And of course, there's a huge risk associated with it. In India, I don't know what the situation there is. In India, the situation is really unfortunate because a lot of people uh, who do not intend to compete at the highest stage are also on gear, and it is becoming uh, so common nowadays, and it's kind of sad in that sense. And of course,
Mhm,
the fitness scene on Instagram, specifically when it comes to men fitness, right? Natural physique, unless someone has trained for 10, 15, 20 years to get that level of physique, at least 10 years to get that level of physique, like the inspiration that people draw are from enhanced physique, even if they are not as huge, let's say, as someone like who's competing for, let's say, Mr. Olympia, even in men's physique or classic division. But still, otherwise also, the basic, like what you see in movies and
mhm,
TV shows, etc., right? 10, 15 years back, like there's a common thing in the fitness industry, right? That Brad Pitt from Troy, not Troy, what was the other movie, where he had a dual personality with Fight Club, right? And he had this
yeah,
very,
yeah.
yeah, very lean physique, very aspirational at the time. But in today's day and age, that is
He's
not
tiny.
the ideal. It's tiny. Do you even do you even lift, bro? Kind of a physique.
Exactly.
So, so
Yeah, exactly. It's as you say, it's become so trivialized,
yeah.
that people don't know what is normal anymore. And I'm definitely also, like, how do I say, I'm not immune to that. So even I sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm tiny compared to these people. But then I kind of remember, okay, but I don't know, I haven't been lifting for that long, and I'm also a natty. Whereas there are a lot
But
of influencers, both male and female, that are on gear and that just straight out lie about it. And
Yeah.
that is something that is really, really dangerous. So on the one hand, you have people that lie about it, and then just regular people watching it think that they can achieve that physique and they will feel bad for not being able to achieve that physique, which is the
Yeah.
case because they are natural. And on the other hand, also, so I do see that danger in people lying about it, but I also see the danger in people being so open about being on gear because it really trivializes it. And there's a lot of
Mm,
people that try to copy it because they want to
mm,
achieve that physique without really realizing the health implications that that has. And also
mm,
just like very regular people, as you also just mentioned. So I actually worked at a gym for a month, and I was shocked to hear or to see how many dudes are on gear, but you wouldn't
mm,
even necessarily think it. But they just jumped on gear because they thought it was a shortcut without
mm,
realizing that you still need to put into work. So a lot of people just jump on gear far too early because they think,
mm,
it will boost their progress. However, if you're not even close to your natural limit, to your genetic limit, why would you do that? Because again, also everyone reacts very differently to gear. So if you have a very high, let's say, genetic limit, then it is also more likely that if you are enhanced and on gear, your limit will again be very, very high. If you have a rather low genetic limit and you're very limited in the way that you can build muscle, it is also
mm,
very likely that gear will not do you a lot of favor. So, and that is really shocking to see how many people just jump on gear because they are not aware of that it doesn't work for everyone in the same way, and that it also has these huge health implications. So there are so many dudes that
mm,
just take something because their brother recommended to them or something like that. I'm like, oh my god,
mm.
you have no idea what you're doing to your body. So that's really, really bad.
Yeah. I think they look at the upside in the sense of the social media validation, which also comes with financial reward as well, because people then get sponsored by supplement brands and could make a living out of it. So yeah, that is there. And you mentioned that you do not consider yourself as big within the women fitness community, but that's like a humble statement, because looking at you, I would probably assume that you are in the top 3, top 2, top 1% of women lifters, right? in terms of
Yeah,
in
so
terms of your
yeah,
muscle size.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm totally 100% aware that that is some days just like not body dysmorphia kicking in, but just my comparison kicking in. And then I'm also, again, I take a step back and I'm aware that I am just in a very, very specific niche and bubble. So my Instagram feed basically is fitness
Mm,
influencers and food
mm,
recipes. So that's what I'm bombarded with all day, every day. And of course, if you see all of these super jacked women, then I
mm,
might seem tiny compared to them. But if I take a step back and then just look around me in my everyday regular life, I do notice every day that I am more muscular
mm,
than the average woman is. So I'm very well aware that I have that bias, and I actively also
mm,
try to take a step back from that because I know that it is not healthy to compare myself to just like the top 0.5% of female lifters, but instead
mm.
I shouldn't compare
Yeah.
myself to anyone in the first place.
Yeah. How much do you bench?
Oh, I'm not a big fan of bench, so my PR is 60 kg. So back when I benched it, that was my body weight, so I was really proud of it. But yeah, bench is definitely out of SBG, so squat, bench, deadlift, the big three, my weakest.
But 60 kg for a woman still probably puts you in the top triple zero, top point triple zero 1% population.
Which is very likely. Again, I'm very biased because I'm also surrounded in my private life by a lot of powerlifters, and powerlifters obviously
Right.
are
Yeah.
so much stronger than I am because they train specifically for strength and less for hypertrophy, as I mostly do it. So again, I'm biased. Yeah, 60 kg is probably really a lot for women of my weight and size.
Yeah.
But again, compared
Yeah.
to my surroundings, it might seem a little.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel that like you are also genetically gifted, because with your 3 years of experience and at PR of 60 kg, and with so much of muscles that you have put on, you think someday you feel that okay, maybe bodybuilding competition is the way for me because I am genetically gifted? Or do you
I
not? Do
have
you?
100% considered it. Yeah, so
Okay.
first of I am 100% genetically gifted. I
Mm.
can't really tell in the sense that none of my other family members lived. So I don't really know whether, that also holds for them. But I do think I'm genetically gifted just seeing the way I was able to build muscle. I also have to say that pretty much from the start, my nutrition was in check, my recovery was in check. I had really, really sound knowledge on workouts, or trainings, etc. Because I just, when I'm interested in something, I go deep down the rabbit hole and I educate myself as well as I possibly can. So I pretty much did all of the right things from the start, but still, I am genetically gifted. There's no doubt about it. I also keep telling people that when they ask me, because I have a lot of people, obviously, in my DMs asking me like, for how long have you been lifting, and so, etc., because they kind of want to know what they can get within a certain time, but that is so highly individual because we are genetically different. And that is also, amongst others, the reason why I was considering bodybuilding, because first off, I think it's a pretty cool sport in the sense that it is about delayed gratification and really discipline and tenacity. And anyone who has ever pursued a PhD knows that delayed gratification is a huge factor of our personality, or anyone who does weightlifting knows that delayed gratification is something that's really, really neat to have if you are into weightlifting. And I'd say bodybuilding still isn't off the table, but right now I wouldn't consider it, because I just enjoy my sport way too much. I really, really enjoy weightlifting, but I also really, really enjoy food. And I think this entire building phase, so bulking and really pushing
Mm.
myself to the limits in the gym, I would be 1000% down for it. So count me in. But when it comes to the entire diet phase and cutting calories, I have no idea whether I would be able to sustain that, because I honestly
Mm.
love food way too much, and I would actually also be worried that it would trigger some kind of disordered eating again. So that is something or path I don't want to go down. So currently I'm super
Mm.
happy, but at some point I might change my
Mm.
mind and compete. Yeah.
And if you don't mind asking me, how old are you? I'm just trying to get a grasp of like your trading thing.
Yeah. So I actually pretty recently turned 30.
Okay. Yeah. Because because we are talking, the reason I'm asking this is because we are talking about bodybuilding, and that is a sport where again age, uh, with individuals, it plays a huge role. So earlier Sarah talked about Chris Bumstead, who retired at peak, I think when he was 28 something. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but he retired
exactly.
very early. Yes, retired very early. And then in the past there were people who started doing after 35 and like peaked at around 45. There's this example of Dexter Jackson or someone. So yeah, so that's the reason why I asked this, so that it, it's a
But there's
like
also a bunch of bodybuilders that start rather late. So
yeah.
I can't recall her name right now. She's a vegan WNBF pro, Shelly something. I follow her on Instagram, but I can't recall her
Hmm.
full name. But she's
No worries.
amazing.
Yeah.
She has the craziest, most beautiful, fantastic physique ever. And her first competition, she took part in, I think she was after or older than 50. So she was
Oh
50 years
yeah.
old when she started competing, and
Yeah.
she looks freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are definitely people that start later.
Yeah, I think it is also to do with the fact that people into bodybuilding, like you said, it is a game of steroid plays a huge role, right? That it's one of the huge, it's a big variable, and it is also to do with the fact that how an individual is reacting to it. Probably in Chris Bumstead's case, it is rumored that he like he gave his health a priority and then realized and he took a step back. For some people, if it's not if their blood work is not looking messed up, then they probably continue uh, even at a uh, even when they get older. So probably that is the case in this lady's example as well. So that could be the case. So but yeah, I mean, again, it depends
So
on
as
individual.
far as I know, she is natty, because like there are
Oh.
leagues depending on
Mm.
in what league you compete. Actually, you have federation, or not league but federations, that only allow natties to compete, and
Mm.
people are tested pretty rigidly. So they have to do urine tests, for example, blood tests,
Mm.
to show that they are actually not on gear. And for example, the woman I was talking about, the vegan lifter that started competing after the age of 50. She is in the WNBF, so that is a natural bodybuilding federation, for example. So there are differences. yeah, a natty might not be able to, or it might be very hard to become, for example, an IFBB bodybuilding pro if you are a natty. But it's not impossible, definitely not, but it is harder because you are compared to people that are on gear. But there are federations that are natty, and that is, if I would ever compete, also what I would go for, because otherwise there's no chance that I would ever have any
Yeah.
chance at competing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our viewers, like these are different bodybuilding federations, and the one that Sarah is referring to, that is to do with natural bodybuilding, where they rigorously test for consumption of anabolics and disqualify athletes who consume them. But I'm also would be skeptical that there would be some who would also know how to get through those tests as well. But of course, the more
100%.
stringent it is, yeah, the chances of being a natty, that is slang for natural athlete, goes higher. So yeah, I also saw in one of your posts you mentioned that you are child free. Is that the case?
Sorry, that I'm what, child free?
Yeah,
Or did I understand it? Yeah, I don't have
yeah.
kids, if that was the question.
No, no, you don't have kids is a different thing. Child free means that you don't intend to have kids ever. Is that the case as well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So it's not because whenever I say that, people are like, "What, don't you like kids?" I love kids.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like kids so much, and I'm so much into my nephew, for example. He is the
yeah.
cutest, but I just don't see myself with kids. I don't think that is a lifestyle that would fit me and
Mhm.
my personality. So yeah, I don't plan on ever having kids. But anyways, I don't have a partner, so I don't need to worry about that anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, so I just wanted to check this with you, that whether you are child free or an antinatalist. You know what an antinatalist
No,
is?
absolutely. Probably I have never heard the term, but I would guess that people that don't want to set or put children into this world
Yeah.
for
So child
environmental or
free,
ethical reasons, probably.
yes, yes. So child free is a personal choice, that you not having a baby is your personal choice.
Hmm.
Antinatalism is that arguing with others as well, debating others as well, that no one should have kids. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just child free. So if people want to
Okay.
have kids, go ahead, have kids. But I'm just child free. I don't want to have any kids for myself.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So even I'm child free, so that's why when I saw that, I thought I'll discuss this with you. And then in India, when we tell our parents that, hey, we are child free, the first question that they ask is, okay, is there some sort of physical problem with you, like are you not able to conceive, something like that? I said,
Oh wow.
maybe, I don't know, but I'm not getting that test, but before that only I'm child free. But yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine it's just harder in your culture as well, because culturally, of course, there are huge differences between like Europe or Germany, where I live, versus India. Because I think from the impression that I got back, like, okay, I was in India over a decade ago, but family is way more of a central construct in people's lives than it is, for
Mm,
example, in Germany, or in Europe
mm,
in general, maybe. So I do understand that it might be harder also to open up to your parents about, hey, by the way, you will not become grandparents. Surprise. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Luckily, I also have a nephew, so they got to be grandparents. But yeah, not because
Same
of
situation here.
my endeavors. So
Thanks to my sister.
yeah. Okay. I
Yeah,
just
it's
had
actually
a
really funny because, no, sorry,
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Please, no, no. Please continue. I was changing the topic.
No, I
What's
was just
funny?
about to say that it's really funny because like my brother, like I have a brother and a sister, and my brother and I are both child free, and we were just kind
Mm,
of, rooting for my sister because she wanted kids ever since she could think, and we were just rooting for her for it to happen. So
yeah.
now, ever since like a little bit over a year ago,
Yeah.
the duty is done, and she made our parents into grandparents. So we're happy,
Yeah.
they're happy.
Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So now you will not face any problems from your parents. They'll
Yeah, I
not
wouldn't
force
have
you.
anyways. So
Yeah.
fortunately, I have very, very supportive parents, and I hope you do as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's subjective. We'll discuss some other day. But yeah. All right. So I just wanted to ask you about a bit about supplements. So in general, uh, name three supplements that sell, but in reality are absolute trash and marketing gimmicks.
Oof, there are so many again. Um, well, three that are so. the first thing that again comes to mind are things like carnitine or taurine, for example, because there's no scientific evidence that they are really that beneficial when it comes to your performance. So that would
Mm,
definitely be trash. Um, it's really hard to demonize entire groups because some people might have benefits from it. So, for example,
mm,
ashwagandha is really big right now. I don't know of any research that shows that it is actually useful, but it might, even if it's just a placebo effect, it might be useful to some people. So,
mm.
honestly, it's hard to tell. I could tell you three supplements that you should take 100%, but I couldn't tell you three supplements that I would say are in general trash because, again, it is very nuanced.
Mm,
Some people might experience some benefits from it,
mm.
and other people might not. So,
That's why I use the term marketing gimmick, that when these supplements are sold, while they may have a use case, but they are sold as if that everyone should need it. You mentioned ashwagandha,
mhm,
right? Right now it's all
mhm.
the rage. Like you consume ashwagandha and then it's like equivalent, like how they try to sell it, that this is the real testosterone booster naturally and all of that, right? So in that sense, where it's almost becoming a marketing gimmick and trying to fool people.
Yeah, definitely. But I also have honestly to say that I'm not that much into the supplement game. So I do take my supplements that are necessary, but otherwise,
Yeah.
my Instagram is not too flooded with it. So I was actually recently just contacted by a company from the US that wanted to work with me, and they provide some supplements that apparently help you lose weight and stuff. So okay,
Mm.
that is a huge scam. Okay, sorry, I take everything
Yeah.
back. So any supplement that kind of sells you a metabolism booster, weight loss, fat
Okay.
loss booster, whatever crap. So I'm not talking about GLP medication, GLP-2 medication. So that is medication, that is something different. But I'm talking about supplements that promise you a
GLP-2 is
metabolism
Ozempic.
boost or exactly, yeah. So
Yeah.
that is medication, that is something different that has also a
Yeah.
scientific research that actually backs it, a fact. But when it
Mm,
comes to natural supplements that apparently boost your metabolism or fat loss or whatever, please just
mm.
stay away from it because it is just a huge scam and you will just waste your money and just check in with your nutrition, your recovery, and your movement and your sport, and you'll be
Yeah.
way better off.
Mm, mm. All
So yeah,
right.
sorry, I
And
got into that rage because I was contacted by a company that kind of wanted to work
yeah.
with me on these weight loss booster thingies. I'm like, first off, that's not what I'm primarily working on with my clients. So because
Mm,
their primary goal is to gain muscle, and secondly, yeah,
mm.
no, I doubt the efficiency, to be honest.
Were they paying well?
We didn't even get to payment because I pretty much declined. I was like, yeah, sorry, I'm not interested. So then they don't kind of come around with payment.
Is there an amount, like for example, someone says, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million to sell uh, metabolism booster, fat loss, something like that."
I think everyone is can be bought at some point. So I think everyone has a point where they cave in. I honestly couldn't tell you what my point would be, but I can guarantee you that I'm just human. So there is definitely a certain amount of money where I would probably be like, okay, that's okay. But it also depends on the product. So if it's a fat booster, fat loss booster, whatever, I think I could still ethically kind of not stand behind it, but ethically argue that I'm not doing any harm. But there are things where I would know if they are actively harming people. I think that's
Mm,
something I could never get behind, no matter the money. So I think you couldn't pay me enough money, for example, to become a carnivore influencer. So
mm.
there's huge difference to it, but yeah, definitely, I think
But
everyone cracks at some point.
that way also, I believe you'll not endorse a non-vegan product ever.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question.
I'm saying that way I believe that you'll not endorse a non-vegan product as well.
No, never, no, because it's
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a vegan, so that means I have an ethical stance against animal abuse. So if
Yeah.
someone tries to kind of use me for that purpose, it kind of
Mm,
would also defy like my definition of myself as a vegan and the image that I
mm.
have. And
Yeah.
yeah, also just I couldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror if I did something like that.
Mm.
Because honestly, if
Yeah.
money makes me throw away all of my ethics, like my core ethics,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's something I would have to work on personality wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, like these are like core fundamental ethics that, of course, that can't be shaken. But yeah, in general, let's say
Exactly.
there's a vegan fat loss, fat burner, something like that. And if you know that okay, this is not going to harm someone, then yeah, probably. So I'm asking this, that I'm also trying to learn that what should be the framework if someday someone reaches out to me for this thing. So yeah.
I think everyone needs to define it for themselves. And also,
Yeah.
I might be speaking from a very privileged situation in the sense that I'm not financially struggling.
Mm,
So I'm doing well.
mm,
My job is doing well. I'm not in any financial problem or
mm,
whatever problem. So I have the luxury to just decline or accept, yeah,
mm.
corporations as I want
Yeah.
them. But if, for example, you're in financial distress and you really kind of need the money, I think you're also way more willing to bend your ethics as long as they're not like your core ethics than someone who is financially cool.
Very, very, very valid point. Yeah, of course, that also makes a point. But yeah, otherwise, you were saying supplements that one should definitely take.
Yeah, so as vegans, B12, don't discuss it, B12, I think, but that is also the one that probably most vegans are aware of that they should take. Then vitamin D is also actually not even for vegans only, but for pretty much everyone, probably non-negotiable. Unless you live on a sunny beach all year round, you are very likely to be deficient in vitamin D because you simply don't get enough of it. We don't have enough sun, especially in the northern hemisphere. Also, where I live, vitamin D is an issue. And I think also something that a lot of vegans are not aware of is omega 3. So, omega 3 is something that a lot of people might not ingest enough of as vegans, or at least the long chain omega 3. So, you have ALA, DPA, EPA, and DHA. And ALA, for example, is the short chain one, and that you can find in flaxseed, in walnuts, etc., chia seeds. So vegans will probably not be deficient in that. But the long chain ones are found either in fish or in algae and seaweed, so DHA and EPA. And if you don't regularly consume seaweed, for example, as a vegan, I would actually also consider taking an omega-3 supplement derived from algae
Hmm.
oil.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So
Yeah,
these
and
are
that is
like the
also.
big three, and anything else is just fancy and depends on your nutrition, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, omega 3 algae based supplements have become very common now, easily available. Interesting thing, I don't know if we have the time for it, but otherwise, some other time we can take this up. So, I was reading about ALA to EPA DHA conversion, and I was just trying to find out that calculation point. So, in males, it's like only um, 5 to 10% of conversion rate is there. So, how much of ALA
Exactly.
you need to consume, and so on and so forth. I did that, and this is generally the kind of stuff that I do just for debating purposes, etc., to have that knowledge. And uh, while doing that research, I came across, I forgot the name, some vegan or plant-based doctor, and he made a very interesting point. I'll not go technical into it, but I'll just try to summarize it, and probably that's what I remember also. That he talked about this concept that ALA to DHA and this conversion that we see, that that conversion rate is also not calculated properly by us, and we are seeing at wrong site. Like, I think his point of view was that we are seeing the levels at, I think, blood level, but then it converts when body
Hmm.
needs it, then the conversion happens at a much later stage. And he said that for that we do not have that research. So I'll share that video with you. uh, just have a
I'd
look
love to.
into that.
So I'd love to. So anything that is new, or and that is kind of what the research mind is about. If there's evidence that shows me that what we thought until now was the case is not the case, then a researcher or scientific person will always gladly change their mind. But to the knowledge that I have, and to the best of my knowledge, and to the amount of research that we have at this point, or like when it comes to these conversion rates, uh, the conversion from the short chain to the long chain omega-3 fatty acids is just not sufficient. But if there's new evidence suggesting that that is actually wrong, happily share
Yeah,
with me, and I will definitely take
yeah,
omega-3 off the table.
yeah. So I just opened on my notes where I wrote that. So I'll just read it out from there. This is my notes from that video. So essentially, he said that uh, DHA was stored in our fat tissue, is stored in our fat tissue, and brain requires 2.5 to 3.8 mg per day. So, so essentially, the conversion of ALA to DHA is done in tissues than in bloodstream, and the observation is done in the bloodstream, and that's where
Hmm.
the conversion rate is low. But as per him, that is fine. His name is Professor Brasnet. I have the video link here. I'll share it with you, and for all our viewers as well. He was talking about this whole conversion that it first SDA, ETA, EPA, DPA, DHA. So EPA and DHA are the two things that we are looking at, and as per him, ALA is able to convert that, but not at the site where the observation is currently done by us. So that is like a faulty way of measuring essentially
Hmm.
short and long omega chain. So yeah, something to look into. It's
That
on
would be
my
really cool, actually. That would be really cool if it were the case, because then we have one more point where, I don't know,
yeah,
carnivore muppets can't hit us with, but you're deficient in B12 and omega-3 and blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, just take the
yeah,
supplement. But if that's not even the case anymore, then we have one less
yeah,
fight or one less battle to to do.
yeah. Plus I was also, and then in general, like I if even if we go by the assumption that ALA to EPA and DHA conversion is less, so essentially for EPA it's 8% for men and 21% for women, and for DHA it's again 4% for men and 9% for women. So I was just trying to do that calculation, like how much flaxseed we consume, and then we translate it into like 4% conversion, and then see how much EPA DHA we need. So the realization that I came to after that calculation, I should have the numbers as well. So we need like total of 6 grams of ALA consumption, which means like accordingly we'll have to, for men, I'm saying that we have to consume that much of flaxseed, and that comes to around 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of flaxseed. So generally,
Yeah,
even
totally
with that,
manageable.
yeah, even yeah, I mean with low conversion rate also. Uh, we can still get the required EPA DHA. The only issue with that is like 2.5 tablespoon. It goes to around 150 kcal, 150 calories. So if someone is like trying to be at a maintenance calorie or trying to cut, then it is a problem in that sense. Then it's a constraint that you're hitting, because you of course looking for avenues to reduce your calorie intake and increase your protein intake. In that case, supplement makes sense. Generally I would say to anyone, like if you are worried about this, consume an algae supplement. But yeah, this is all like my geeking out and trying to study for discussions and debates. But I'll send you that video. Please
That's
do
really,
look.
really cool.
Yeah, I'll send that video over to you.
Thank you. I already also wrote down the name of that professor, because I think I haven't heard of him yet. So
Yeah, yeah. All right. Is I think I've discussed almost everything that I wanted to discuss with you. Uh, yeah, almost even. We are already at 1 hour 30 minutes mark, which is longer than usual. So this was a fun conversation, Sarah. I hope you had fun as well.
I did. Thank you so much. I think you could see that the light was changing and it's getting dark over here. So
Oh
definitely
yeah,
a good
it's
yapping session.
and it was fun, and I hope that viewers got to learn from this. And thank you for being such an inspiration, specifically for women fitness, vegan fitness space. I think we need more inspiration in that area, and you are doing amazing job.
Thank you so much for that compliment. Honestly, it means the world, because that's what I'm trying to do, just showing people what's possible as a vegan woman. And thank you so much for having me. It was really, really fun chatting.
All right, and thank you to everyone and who are still with us at the end of the podcast. Do check out the description. We will be listing out Sarah's Instagram and other stuff that we discuss. So thank you so much for being with us. And until we meet again, this is Shivam and Sarah signing out. Bye bye.
Bye.